Here we are at my buddy's house, and I'm going to show him how simple it is to repair bellows. We had Tyvek material. What you use is totally up to you, whether you want to use leather, Tyvek, coveralls, post office paper. This video is only to show you how to repair bellows. What material you use is totally up to you. But this is Tyvek material that you buy from Time Savers. We cut it in approximately 1.5 inches width, and so with the bellows, he's going to grab one bellow and I'm going to grab the other bellow. I'll work on this bellow and you work on that bellow. And what I do is I'm going to mark where these nails are, because I'm going to pull these nails out and I want to be able to put them back in the same area. And so pulling the nails out and leaving it in a container so I can find it later. Oh, sorry. And the next tip, these bellows have got tears in them. So we're going to take a knife and we're going to just cut the material off. And so I'm going to show him what I do, and then he can do his bellows. I got the harder bellow. I got the bellow that lifts the cuckoo. So what I'm going to do, can I scrape all this stuff in your floor? We're going to have to sweep later. Is I'm going to scrape all the old bellow material off the wood. It's very important that you get all the old bellow material off the wood, or your glue will not adhere and will not stick. And we don't have the red paper to put on top. What I'm going to do is go underneath this paper, and I'm going to try to move the red paper out of the way. That way I can glue it back down after I got the bellow material. The same way on the other side, I'm going to remove move the red paper out of the way. That way I can glue it back down. That way it looks somewhat presentable. So this top bellow, it will work. And sometimes you might have to get a Dremel, depending on how they made the bellow, with the sanding disc and clean it off. You also want to check the bellow to make sure it works by blowing in the hole. If it doesn't work, you watch my YouTube video of how these bellows are created, and most of the time it's because this piece of wood right here, which is called a reef, is loosened, so you're going to have to take it off, reposition it while you're blowing in the hole to get the piece of wood in the right spot. Once you start making noise, that's when you glue that piece of wreath down in the right spot. And there's no sense in doing bellow repair if you can't get any noise, and that's why you want to blow into the bellow to make sure you have noise. There's other times And like I said in my other videos, when you put the bellows back into the clocks, you want to use the same holes, because the more holes you put in this bellow, it's hollow in this area right here, that it's going to change your sound. So as I blow, I could treat this thing like a flute, like you used in school. So use the same holes. If the holes are worn out, glue some toothpicks in them or other pieces of material. Some people say toothpicks is harder than a cuckoo clock and you could damage it. So you can glue matchsticks. You could put some wood putty in those holes and 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 let it dry before you put your sticks um, screws back in the holes. So now I have this one all cleaned up. In order for this clock to work, you have to put a hinge on this clock. This clock activates like this bellow. So the first step I need to do is take some of this material that we took off and create a hinge. I'm going to have enough material. I'm just going to cut a piece off right here. That way I can make myself a hinge. Your hinge is going to be the width of the bellow itself. So and you don't need a long hinge. All you're doing is coming from here to the top of the bellow. So I'm going to cut this off even more. This is about all the hinge that you need. So the next step we're going to do is glue this down.
Little tubes of glue left.
That's just only $1. I think I can afford $1 for helping you out. All the good stuff that you give me, I can afford $1. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some super glue. I use super glue. You can use contact cement. You could use whatever you want. But when I do this, I want to do it, and I want to do it quickly. I don't want to wait for the contact cement to get tacky before you put your material on. So super glue. Loctite super glue works the best, but cheap super glue will work also. So put some super glue on the bottom of the bellow all the way across the board, and then take that hinge that you just cut and put on there, and then using your thumb, a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, rub that hinge back, rub the material back and forth on that board to make sure that it's going to stick. And that's all it takes. It's already glued. And then the next step, we are going to put the top bellow portion on. The top bellow portion, where it's tapered, is the portion that is part of the hinge. This flat part, if you put that on, your bellow's not gonna work properly. So I'm going to go ahead and put some super glue on the top bellow, where I pulled the old paper off, and then I'm going to make the bellow flush, and then I'm going to push the paper on. And again, rubbing it with your finger, with a knife, with a screwdriver, whatever. So you have to start with the hinge. And now I have a hinge. So with the long strip of 1.5 inches paper that we cut, the next step is to we have excess here. The next step is to put the bellow down on this paper and folding some over. It don't need to be folded all the way over. About 1/4 to halfway is where it needs to be when you're done. And so I'm going to, sorry, Ron. I'm going to mark the bellow, and you can mark it on both sides if you want. And I marked the bellow to the right of where I marked the paper to the right of where the bellow top is sitting. And then I'm going to bring this paper over, and I'm going to mark it so I can cut it off because I have excess. Checking to make sure that you didn't move the bellow in the process of your marking. So with the excess, I'm going to cut it off because it's easier to work with that way. So now my next step is to put super glue on the bottom plate of the bellow top. And when I put super glue on this piece of wood, I'm going to go ahead and put it down on the Tyvek and rub that into place. And that's what the mark is for. That way I can put it into place. Rubbing it down. And then the next step is I'm going to put super glue on the top portion of the bellow. And then gluing the paper to the top portion of the bellow. And that's what the top mark is for also, and so you can line everything up right. Rubbing the material down onto the wood. The next step, I'm going to pick a side, and I'm going to pick this side here first, and I'm going to put super glue both on the top portion of the bellow and on the bottom portion of the bellow onto the wood. Using my finger to separate the two, I'm pulling the paper straight back and then rubbing it down on the wood. Now I have to do the same thing to this side over here. You want to put super glue in the corners, by the way. That way you know that your corner is completely sealed. you already have the things separated, so all you have to do is pull the paper straight back and then start rubbing it down. Where the wire is, you just rub the material underneath that wire. There's typically enough wood for the bellow material to be. Next step is I'm going to super glue this top paper back down to where it was so it looks somewhat pretty. And then I want to fold the bellows in from the left and to the right. I want to fold them in while I'm closing the top bellow. You see that, Ron?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you got the top bellow closed, it's starting to make noise, but once you wrap up this material to the back, it will make more noise. And this is where you can get creative, but the easiest thing is to just cut the material off and get it wrapped around. It's where you want to have a sharp knife, which you do, by the way. And then here I want to make it somewhat pretty, so I'm going to take this knife and go along the top of the wood to take that material away. And this hinge is a little bit big. It don't have to be that big, but it's going to work. It'll be suffice. You can make them a little bit smaller if you want. Again, put super glue in the edges so it wraps, so it makes sure everything is sealed up. And I want to cut all the excess off on the other side. And then super glue this tab over, which will complete the locking of the bellow. And the reason why it sounds like that is because of these two holes. Once I cover up the holes, it sounds better. And then I'm going to glue this last piece over to make it all look pretty. I hope you all like this video. Hit the subscribe button.